Andrew Tate as a kid is getting bullied, he's getting hit, he's getting assaulted by like kids who are bigger than him, and two kids as well. And finally he's defended himself. Is that so far just what we've been told here? And of course, you know, oh, is this true or not? We can break that into an argument as well. But just if we imagine that this is a true story, is this positive or negative for you? Because with the conditioning that we've been through in school, I remember that this would be an incredibly negative thing, that you're not allowed to defend yourself. You're supposed to go run to the teacher to help you. Always wait for the authority to come and deal with your problems. It's a very like feminine way that we were raised in school. It's like, nope, put your hand up and tell the teacher. Face social ostracization, where like you'll be made an outcast if you're seen as a snitch if you tell this teacher like, oh, you know, these guys are picking on me. Or do you deal with it? Because how I'm imagining when I was a kid and I was going through problems similar, and like chances are you're watching this, like you probably experienced shit just like this. You probably experienced, like, you know, you were young, just some random fucking little kid picking on you. And of course now we're older, we understand that kid who was picking on you had trauma at home. He was getting abused, maybe sexually assaulted at home. That's why kids rarely act out in these areas, is because generally they're always getting abused at home. And so they kind of like unleash that same power dynamic in school, but to someone lower than them. But at that time, when there is a threat in front of you, when you're getting assaulted, and of course you're 5 years old, they're 7 years old, it's only like a child version of assault, it absolutely fucks your self-esteem. Like, I don't know if you've been like bullied before, if you've been the victim of racism. I've experienced a lot of racism in my life. Like, we moved to the UK when I was 3 years old. I was the only, like, we were the only brown kids in the school. I think there was like one other brown or black kid in like my primary school, my high school and stuff. Like in my high school, maybe like a couple of brown families, but so like dispersed. And the amount of shit that I went through, and the amount of times that all I heard was like, oh yeah, make sure you go run to the teacher and tell them that, you know, to tell off the other kid. And those times where I listened to that, you know, some kid hit me or like called me a packy or any of this stuff. And I went to the teacher, and, you know, the teacher would generally take it pretty seriously, write it down, and, you know, like I'd see the student getting pulled out of class. But after that, when that same student would be coming back into class and say, oh yeah, Hamza snitched on me, and then you're like that social outcast where like you're a little bitch, you went to the teacher instead of dealing it with yourself. I don't know if this is like if this is a bad thing to say, but what would I tell my child to do in that situation? The thing is, my son would never be in that situation. This is a very off-topic rant, but like, my children are not going to fucking normal schools. I have the huge privilege that I've worked very hard at this age, that I'll be extremely wealthy when I do have children, so they'll be homeschooled. I am not sending my child to like some normal ass school where they're getting conditioned by these like teachers to become more feminine, to give up their masculinity, but also to be put in a class which is inducing trauma inside of them, which is conductive towards bullying and harassment. I think back to my time in the education system, and it's so fucking like negative. And of course there was like some positive, oh, you know, we got to make friends and stuff. Like the smallest, like the lowest hanging fruit is like, oh yeah, well, we had some fun times.